Wait, hang on a minute. So you're telling me there's a brand new movie on Netflix starring both Stephen Amell and Han from Fast and Furious, and I'm not supposed to watch it? So, Code is directed by Jeff Chan and stars Robbie Amell as a superpowered construction worker who falls in with a group of criminals in order to raise the funds to help his ill mother. So yes, as I mentioned in the intro, this is a brand new film that has come to Netflix pretty much worldwide. This isn't a Netflix movie though, this is actually a original film that was actually funded by an Indiegogo campaign, but it has actually come to Netflix worldwide, so it's being able to access, or be able to be accessed by many more people. And it's just really nice to see that, because this movie I've been waiting a long time to see, mainly because of the people involved. I've been excited about this movie, I've known about this movie for a long time, I've been following up with the making of it and stuff like that, because I'm a huge fan of the talent. Both Robbie Amell and more specifically Stephen Amell are really heavily involved in this, and of course are the two leads. Stephen Amell is someone I have an extreme respect and extreme love for. Stephen Amell is one of my favourite actors. Some of you may know my favourite TV series of all time is Arrow, which of course Stephen Amell is the lead of. I've met Stephen Amell a few times. I'll put up some pictures on screen right now. I've met Stephen Amell a few times. He's a great guy. I just have a lot of respect and I have a lot of time for Stephen Amell. So I was very much excited to see this, and also when you throw in the fact that Han from Fast and Furious is in this as well, I'm not really going to complain. So I finally got to sit down and watch this movie after months and months and months of waiting for it. So how did it stack up? Well, let's find out. So I want to start off by talking about the performances of this film. So I'll start off with the lead of the movie, which is Robbie Amell, which is Stephen Amell's cousin. You may know him as Firestorm from The Flash. Robbie Amell is fine in this movie. This isn't the best I've seen him, I will admit. I mean, Robbie Amell is very, very interesting as an actor in this, because he kind of plays it similar to how he played Ronnie Raymond on The Flash. If you've watched The Flash, you know in season 1 when they had Ronnie Raymond as Firestorm, he kind of plays it similarly to that. So you know that's kind of giving you an idea of what kind of performance he's trying to give throughout this movie. And then we also, of course, as I said, we have Stephen Amell, who, again, kind of like Robbie, is kind of just playing Oliver Queen. This is kind of his just take on the Green Arrow, just in this movie as well, which is not a problem for me, because, again, I love Arrow, I love Oliver Queen, I love Stephen Amell as Oliver Queen, so I'm not going to complain when he's performing like that, and he's very good at it. It's just a little bit of a shame, because I would have liked to have seen Stephen Amell, again, just purely as a fan, I would have liked to have seen him perhaps give a kind of different performance, just to see something else from him, because obviously I've watched Arrow for 8 seasons, I've seen 8 seasons of Oliver Queen. It would have been nice to see something a bit different. However, I am hoping that with this new TV series he's got coming out called Heels with Alexander Ludwig, he's able to give a bit of a different performance there. So it is very, very similar performances here from what we've seen before, so it doesn't really stand out. And I think the major problem with Code is that this film has so many ideas that it just doesn't have the time to execute them all effectively. They just have all these different concepts and ideas, which granted, many of them are quite cool and quite interesting. This film is very much an X-Men style world where, you know, you have all these metahumans and these superhero people or superpowered people, and they are kind of, you know, social outcasts. It's supposed to be a commentary on racism, and you have all that going on, which again is very similar to what the X-Men films explore a lot of the time. And you have that element going on, and you also have this kind of futuristic dystopian society side of it, where you have the police and the government who are kind of hunting down these people and taking them down and bringing them into prison and things like that. And they can kind of be exploited for work, but other than that they don't really like them. So again, it's that different kind of commentary there. Sort of almost like an immigration thing. It's just, there's a lot of different ideas going on in this film, and while all that's going on, it's also trying to be this superpowered crime thriller, which the two, they do blend in a certain context, but then in another, this movie feels like it has so much it wants to do and so much it wants to say, and it doesn't have the time to say it all. This movie is only 1 hour 40, so it's not a super long film, so it doesn't really have the time to explore all these elements proficiently. So you kind of have this thing where, on the surface, you have a lot of really cool and interesting ideas, but the movie simply isn't long enough to actually explore all of it, and the movie kind of feels aimless. It feels like it procrastinates a lot of the time. It kind of starts in one place and then ends in a very similar place, and that was a very weird way to watch this film, because by the time it was done, I didn't really know what we had achieved. And that brings me on to my next point, which I don't know what this movie was trying to say, or what it was trying to do, because again, it had so much it wanted to do and so much it wanted to say, that it felt like it didn't really do any of them at the same time. So the movie just feels like it's in this weird space of limbo where it's trying to do this thing, it's trying to do another thing, and then it's going back and not really doing any of it. So it's kind of going 2 steps forward, 1 step back constantly, which is a weird pacing for the movie. It kind of adds this thing where you kind of get half an hour in and you realise, what's happened in this movie so far. Not a lot. So it's kind of a weird film, pacing-wise, which is a very strange experience. Also, I think with a movie like this, you've really got to have a strong lead who you want to get invested in, and the problem is that all the characters in this movie, for the most part, are pretty unlikable. I mean, Robbie Amell's character is kind of annoying because they make him play like he's this sympathetic kind of criminal hero who you can get behind. You know, he's kind of a hero who actually has a heart of gold, even though he's doing bad things, but he's actually kind of a dick. So he's kind of doing these things, especially when you get to the end of the movie. They have this thing where he does this one thing for this character, and I'm just like, that was a horrible thing to do. And then they kind of reverse it when it's almost too late, and I was like, no, you've already done it now. Don't try and make me feel good for this character, because I don't. Like, he made that decision. It's kind of too late to go back on it now. And Stephen Amell's character, who is also, you know, a very hard-edged kind of criminal character, I mean, again, he's not very likable. But at least with Stephen Amell's character, he doesn't try to be likable, really. Whereas Robbie Amell, I can tell the writers were trying to make me like this character, where I didn't. Whereas Stephen Amell, again, not likable, but I at least felt like I wasn't meant to like him necessarily, whereas Robbie Amell, I felt like I was meant to like him, and I just did not at all. The only character I actually really liked in the movie was, there's this character who's like a healer character. I liked her, she was cool, and I also liked Han as the cop who's kind of tracking down Robbie and Steven. I liked him just because I like Han, he's cool. So other than that, there just wasn't really much to latch onto in this film. It's not all negative though. Again, I think some of the things that the movie was trying to bring in and explore were pretty interesting, especially this world seemed quite interesting, which is interesting because I know they are going to do a TV series based on this, at least that's what they're planning to do, with Steven and Robbie at the helm, so they're going to explore this world a little bit more, which I think a TV series will definitely allow them to do that. Also, the different stages of metas that are kind of in this world was nice to see. Like, I like the different kind of types of metas, you know, there's like electric metas and telekinetics and healers and stuff like that, like different kind of elements of metas. That was kind of cool to see. And also they're kind of ranked in stages of severity, so like Robbie's character, who is an electric, he's a stage 5 electric, so he's a pretty severe one. I kind of like how they ranked them in that way. That was a pretty cool idea. So there are some cool little elements throughout it. And also the Guardians, which are these kind of robot, it's like this robot police force militia. They were also a really cool introduction into this because I thought they looked really cool, they felt very practical, and I also felt like their look and design was also quite unique. I haven't really seen anything like that. I mean, even though it is kind of, they look kind of RoboCop-esque, they're still really cool though, and I think that the way they kind of move and the way they act, like there's a particular shot where one of them kind of reloads the gun, that was really cool. So I like them as well. They're kind of a cool little, they're almost like zombies walking around the world. I kind of enjoyed them, so they were a cool addition as well. Also, I will say visually, this movie does have some nice shots as well, especially towards the beginning of this movie. There's this nightclub scene where Stephen Amell is talking to Greg Burke, who's the film's villain, and there's some really nice lighting in that scene, some really beautiful looking shots, and I feel like the movie overall has a really nice look to it. It kind of feels very it feels clean and crisp, but it also feels kind of dingy to look at, which was a nice little contrast, and I enjoyed that. And again, I think the lighting in particular with those scenes, some of the nightclub scenes with these very big fluorescent pinks and blues, were really nice to kind of go against the kind of bleak cityscape that most of the movie takes place in. So overall, Code 8 is an interesting case for me because I was very excited to watch this, very interested to go in just because I'm such a huge fan of Stephen Amell and Robbie Amell and also Sung Kang. I was excited to see where this film was going to go and how it was ultimately going to play out because again, I followed this movie for a long time. This film is actually based on a short film which was made by Robbie and Stephen called Code 8, which I watched a couple of years ago and it was really good, so I was excited to see how they were going to expand upon that. But this film is very, very disappointing in some ways. I just feel like this film didn't really know what it was trying to do. It had like this idea that it wanted to run with, but it didn't quite have the time to really explore any of it very well. And then the end of the movie comes, and I feel like the movie hasn't really explored anything. So it's kind of a shame because this film had a lot of great talent behind it. And, you know, in a way, I actually really enjoyed this film. I didn't really think it was particularly atrocious or anything. It's not terrible. And it's actually a very easy watch, and again, as a fan of the talent behind it, I can really just get behind it, but I just feel like this film could do a lot more expanding on, and hopefully with this TV series that we're supposedly getting for the Code 8 movie, we will be able to explore all that a lot more. So in the end, I really wanted to like this movie, I really did, but in the end I found it just a little bit disappointing, unfortunately, which is a shame, but again, I'm very much interested to see how they're going to expand upon this world going forward. So have you guys seen Code 8? If you have, make sure to let me know all your thoughts about it in the comment section down below. Did you like it? Did you not? Whatever you thought about it, let me know in the comments down below. And as always guys, if you want to see more movie reviews and movie related videos just like this one, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss an upload from me. And I hope to see you guys again next time.